Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today here on Plan to Paint. I'm the host and resident painter, Jim Sponseller. Today we're going to be painting a scene. Sometimes you just get one of those scenes in your mind that is a little bit beyond your reach, you believe, but I'm here to tell you it's okay to stand in front of the canvas and try to make it come to reality. So we're going to be painting today is a little village near a mountain that is out in the town square, has a gazebo with a Christmas tree on it, and it's at dusk, so it's getting dark. The lights are going to start showing. You're going to see some lights on the trees, some lights on the gazebo itself, and maybe some street lights. But it's got a few perspective challenges as well as some lighting effect challenges that hopefully will work out in our favor, but we won't know until we sit here and we try. So let's get right to it. So I've already coated the canvas with our thin down white. It's an 18 by 24 pre-stretched canvas, covered top to bottom in a very thin layer of a thin down titanium white. And so we've got our palette today is our titanium white, a little bit of phthalo turquoise, some Prussian blue, lamp black, Van Dyke brown, alizarin crimson, sap green, a little bit of Prussian green, and I did go ahead and set out the yellows today. We got some yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and cadmium yellow, and I left off the bright red. So let me grab a little bit of my bright red. That was an oversight. Let's see here. Because we want some pretty red lights and bulbs interacting with that dark green tree. I'm going to have to knead this tube. It's getting separated out with pigments from the oils. And comes out onto my palette rather oily, so I'm going to have to work that oil back into the paint here so it doesn't run off my palette. It's going to make for a little bit runnier red, but since we won't be getting to that till later, it needs to stay on top. It'll be fine that it's a little bit thinner because it has more of the oil in this smaller amount of paint than the rest of them coming out of the tube. So there we've mixed it together. Looks like the lamp black could use that, but I think we'll just sop up that oil up there and get to work. So we're going to take a dry brush. We're going to pull down some alizarin crimson and some Prussian blue. We're going to make a deep purple for our nighttime sky. And we want it to lean a little bit more blue than red, I think, in this case. So it's okay to bring down a bit more of the Prussian blue than you might normally when you're making a purple. And we're just going to mix that right on the brush. So we'll start with some I'm actually going to add a touch of black in here to darken it down even more. I don't want it to come out too light to start. We'll just go up here in the corner and little crisscross strokes. Use a touch more crimson. That's better. I'm just going to lay it across. And work our way down the canvas, these crisscross strokes, going back and forth. And we'll pick up a little bit more of the white layer underneath. It's going to lighten a bit as we get towards the horizon. Just go across and kind of clean this up. Nice little blending back and forth. Removes lots of our streaks. We don't want those individual brush bristle streaks in our sky. This gives us a deep, kind of some clouds reflecting some of the light off the horizon in the distance. So you kind of get that layer of clouds up in here. And then we need to make some mountains. So we're going to bring down a little bit of Van Dyke brown into it with some alizarin crimson, and again a touch of the Prussian blue. We have to decide just how far off these mountains are. So just a couple of peaks that stand up and really catch your eye. We're going to put them off to the side a little bit here, I think. This one's going to come down. And we're just kind of picking up any of that excess paint and scraping it down. Yeah, better fill that in a little bit more. Get this little bit of a mountain kind of just floating out there in the sky right now. But he's going to anchor a lot of the scene. Because it instantly gives you a setting for where this town lives. Right at the base of these mountains. Alright, so with a dry brush, I'm going to use one of these ones. I'm going to reach up and pull this mountain down. I'm going to grab and pull in the direction of the face of the mountains. And get that nice overlapping effect. And this one might even have a secondary peek through here, so it kind of comes around. And just kind of blend out that bottom, give it that nice misty base as it works into the layer below. And back to the palette knife. After you clean it off, we're going to pick up some titanium white. And we're going to go ahead and leave it pretty. I put a little bit of the thinned white down and leave it pretty much got some lighter area over here, so we're going to make this the lip side of the mountains. And it probably needs to be dulled a little bit, but we're going to leave it stark just so it stands out. It's just going to catch the eye. Yeah, this is where the artistic license comes in. You just get to break some of the rules every now and again. Goes around. It widens out as we get down at the base here. Now we're going to take our bit of Prussian blue. Way too much blue, Jim. We're going to work in a little bit of titanium white so that it's a little bit lighter. This is going to be our shadow value, so we got kind of come up here and very lightly touched. And make sure you flow down the face of your mountain. This helps give it that some directional effect, as well as murks out darker and lighter areas, even in the shadows where there's nooks and crannies. You don't want to cover up all that dark. You want a lot of little things to be happening in here. So you're barely touching the canvas, just letting it roll off the knife. And this comes on down this way. I'm sorry for all the clearing my throat here. And taking our brush, we're going to lift some of that white up just on the bottom edges, and then we'll get some of this blue pulled up. Just going to misty up a little bit. It has to dissolve into a misty area as well. It's obscured by distance as it gets down into the foggier regions of the mountain here. Go ahead and blend these out. And kind of pull up that mist just a little bit. This helps blend that transition from when it goes to completely misty to somewhat visible. Alright, so we've got our mountains. So we know that this town is a mountainside village. And ultimately, we're going to have a street that kind of runs down this way. Have some shorter buildings here and some taller buildings. Then we're going to have our town square area. So we're going to have our gazebo with our tree, maybe a snowman over here, a few street lights, some lit up with lights in the buildings, and a little bit of garland and stuff on our gazebo. That's how I see it in my mind anyway. We'll see how it actually unfolds as we get our chance to bring this vision onto the canvas. So what I'm going to do is take some crimson, a bit of Van Dyke brown. I'm trying to make a little bit of a brick red. We're going to use this as our building color, but before we actually put any on the canvas, we want to kind of go to the canvas and kind of imagine how these buildings sit. Maybe we got the old inn right here. It's just kind of a small motel, couple of stories. Kind of got ourselves a little street that it's gonna go just back this way. So we're gonna get off this way. I'm kind of cutting into the canvas to give myself a mental line. So this is going to be just a little bit lower on this side than this side. And we can kind of see it goes back a little bit. And being a square brick building, it's got a square roof. Beside that, maybe we have the, maybe there's a gap and there's a little bit of a schoolhouse. An old-time schoolhouse. Maybe it's down here we've got a general store. So we're going to have a single-story general store. And this road goes on down through, and over here on this side of the road I think we'll have a post office. Just kind of in these buildings here. You can see a little bit more of this building on this side. And it's got a little awning that comes out to keep the snow off the snow and rain off the people that are standing on the sidewalk. So let's take this brick color and I'm going to add a little bit of our thinned white. It needs a little bit more of, and then brown a little bit. And so we're going to lay in our shadowed portions, and then we'll have to highlight the difference here. So we're going to bit of a building here. And I encourage you, when you have these ideas that are just floating around in your mind, make sure you take the effort, the time to actually try to fulfill them here. Stand in front of the canvas and do your best at bringing this vision to life. Our zones are. And it may not end up being quite what you see in your mind, but that's okay too. The only way you're going to learn is to actually sit there and work through those problems. Why didn't it come out quite like you envisioned? Where does it need improvement? And then you go and you try to do the same painting again until you actually get it realized just how you want it to be. And I probably need to be using a little bit lighter value here, because I don't think, given this base color that I've got down, I'm quite gonna get the effect that I'm looking for here. This one's got just a flat roof, and that's fine. You can see little bits of it. We'll have to put a little bit of snow up here on this roof. Make it more of a, make the setting clear. Schoolhouse is actually going to be white, so it shouldn't be stark white, so we're going to pick up just a little bit of a black. We're going to work in some kind of a gray. Go ahead and we're going to bring this on here. And I know right now it's not looking like much. Got a couple of blocks out here on our canvas. But working in your general shapes first, and then add in a little bit touches of detail as you go. That was pretty bad. Alright, now we have that old post office over there. Whatever building it can be. It's your world. You can make these buildings whatever you want. This is the side of the building, so our perspective's a little different here. And this is where, like I said, I would have issues. There's perspective challenges here that more of that paint mixture. That will be more red. It'll give it a little more character to the painting. Gazebo sticking out here. Not a gazebo, but a little bit of an awning. Visible from the side. I think we probably need another, maybe a little building in here. I don't know what it would be, but maybe just a butcher shop or something. Grocer. Oh. As we get further away from us, we can see a little bit more of their sides. Alright, so not quite getting the building's feel yet. Let's add some roofs to a couple of them. Add some windows, some doors. Let's see if that helps liven them up some. Got a little bit of a roof line here. That's pretty, there, I need to get my thumb out of there. This one's gonna come down this way. Funny thing is, this is all kind of background. You don't want to spend all of your time on it. Go back in and add some snow to that in a little bit. I better reset this peak here. This is where the perspective goes awry for me, because nice little support right here in the back that's catching. There's going to be more changes coming to this channel. I'm going to be reducing down to just a single painting a week. And rather than live stream, I'm going to record it and put some editing time into the that's pretty bad. Put some editing time into it so that we end up with a more appealing result. General store is going to be a little bit more weathered. It's going to be wood. We're going to use this to lighten the face of the store here. Separate off the face from the side. Alright, we're just going to go across and up. Oh my. A lot of these buildings in the towns, because they were placed by each other, didn't have much in the way of windows on the sides. Just the fronts and the backs. So we need a little bit of an awning on this one. And my arm's going to sleep. Alright, time for some doors and windows. What I'm doing here is I'm just getting a little bit of black on the tip of my knife. And I'm just etching in the idea of little bits of awning here, darker back in here. But yeah, just using a bit of black on that shorter edge of the shorter face of the knife here, and just kind of adding in some indications of windows. This one's going to have more. And this is the end, so it's going to have an extra set of windows, and actually put some windows on the side of this one. And now we want to take a little bit of yellow. Let's give this guy a red door, I think. Maybe a brighter red door. I want people to know they can stop here. And it's going to have a nice fancy for the double doors. And probably a bit of an awning here as well. And we're going to do the awning in white because it's going to have a bit of snow on it. There's an awning here. And there's nice kind of half umbrella awnings. So it's got a curve to it. And it might be one of those deals where I should probably be using a brush or a liner brush rather than trying to do it all with the palette knife, but you learn these things as you do it, and then you think about them as you're painting, and you remember them for the next time that you paint a scene like this. What worked and what didn't work, and then you try again until you figure out exactly what it is that works for you to get the appearance that you're looking for. And I'm just trying to square up these windows a little bit is all. We don't want this hotel to be doing poorly. So we're going to take a little bit of cad yellow and a touch of white. Maybe a little touch of Indian yellow to bring the value down to more of a glowing yellow rather than a bright yellow. So we'll see what we got here. It's just this touch of Indian yellow mixed in with some of the cad yellow and a little touch of white. We're going to use this to make some indications of some lit windows up here. There are a few people staying in this little inn here. And they might be a little bit obscured because there's some curtains there. So it's not stark bright, but as you add these things in, it brings a little bit more detail, a little bit more life and purpose to some of these buildings. They start to look more like buildings rather than just blocks. And this one's going to have a nice big general seated area, so it's got a nice big window for those that are enjoying a little meal off to the side here in the little cafe. You can see outside. Maybe we don't have curtains on this one, so it'll actually be a brighter. Is that wide enough? Yeah, I think we can do a full width knife here. Alright, so we got that. And we're going to have big windows for the general store. They're still open for business. Not quite the end of the day yet. Jessica's just settling in. There's a darker door for the general store here. If you do something like I just did, where you bent the knife down a little bit and you add some character to it by picking up some of this paint you got where you didn't really want it and using it to draw in some shadows of where the boards overlap. Gives it a little more texture. Just make sure you keep your lines straight or you'll get stuff pulled down doesn't make a lot of good sense for you there. Let's clean off the knife. Mostly we're going to cover a large part of this up with our gazebo and our tree and our town area here, town square. So we got a couple of lights on in this little building here. Door up there is that's basically done. Now we're going to take a fan brush and we're going to pick up some of our whites, a little bit of blue. So there's snow that's kind of blowing up all along here. So we've got our, well, that's not going to work, Jim. Snow building up in between the buildings here and kind of rolling on down to the street down here. Grab some more of that white. We're just going to start here. We're going to pull down. And this is going to become our shadows. Bit of shadows out here as the kind of comes down to this snow-covered little town road here. Oh, that was good. Reached right in there and grabbed a bit of that side of my house. My post office building here. And you could add little things like little signs that indicate what the things are. Or there was a sidewalk here, it's been covered by snow and nobody's been out to clean it yet. And I've got this school building over here that I never finished. We could probably get on that, huh? Just fluffing this back in here. A little indication that there's some ground back in there, but separated off from the sky. But nothing with much detail here. Just kind of lightly going with the fan brush, letting it do its task here. Same deal back in here. Just kind of want to go ahead and let that be blended off into nothing. Just kind of a little bit of a indication of some ground there. Yeah, I realized I missed the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse this time of day, no lights, it's dark. All you can see is the couple of windows over here, and I gotta give it a roof. And it has tall windows, let a little more of that light in. Single story building. Give it some little clapboard siding here. And then it's got its roof. Roof sticks out a bit far for the building, it looks like. But we'll get a little bit of this white on here. Just snow hanging off the roof here. Snow kind of hanging on these roofs here. Get more of a roll. These tend to have a little less happening on them. A little not so good insulation on that building. Snow's kind of melted a little bit more. This one over here, he's been without heat. He's closed this week. A little bit of snow up there on this counter peak. Hanging off the edge there. A little snow hanging on the windowsills. Even the darkened windows have some snow hanging out on the windowsills. And we haven't even got to the fun parts yet. Sometimes you just want it to be painterly. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just indications of what's going on here. A little bits of snow hanging out. Make some steps for this one with some snow in the corner of the steps. And this was just a little bit of snow hanging out on the peak, on the roof. Gives it a bit more of a feel for really what's going on here. Kind of makes those windows stand out just a little bit more. It gives a little more setting to the overall scene. There's a little bit of a roof here. It's got some snow in it too. Some awning. Yep, missed that window up there. It's good to kind of look over the scene, see if there's anything that's kind of missing here, where there might be some snow laying on these buildings. So we're about to be done with the buildings. I do want to give the inn a few steps here. So I'm going to get some gray. We're just going to cut in a few little steps here. Just some indication that there's some steps there. And then we'll take that fan brush and we'll just kind of let it do its thing, blending it out. There's some snow going off of the building up around the building here. Alright, so we have ourselves somewhat of a representation of a little town. Is it quite what was in my mind? No. Wow. No, it was not. But all in all, it gets the point across. Got a town. You can see the lights are on. Got our mountains off in the distance. Now we need a gazebo. It's got our big town square area here. Nice greenery, covered in snow. So we're gonna have a kind of a tree here, bit of a gazebo. Trying to decide, there should be some little bit of railing of the gazebo itself. Kind of maybe it's open, so maybe there's bits of railing here, some supporting pillars. Yeah, it's got its own little roof. It's gonna have some snow on it. And we got a tree out there. Alright, so we are going to make a small tree. I'm going to take a little bit of Prussian green, a little bit of sap green, mix them together here. Because it's in a gazebo, this tree will not have snow on it. Where that is going to be. We got ourselves a town Christmas tree. Probably should make that a little bit darker. I'm going to add in some black. We're going to go back over top of it here. I want it to have some good darks in it. Wider tree. And we want to take a little bit of a liner brush here. We're going to add some decorations to it. So we've got ourselves a nice little bit of that Indian yellow on our brush, and we're going to kind of put a little circle here up here. We're going to blend this out, a little star on top. What I want to do is work that out, maybe even with a little bit bigger one. So what we have is the glow present from around this tree. Try not to get that green picked up. And this is what's going to make it appear more light, as a light source. Taking that liner brush, we're going to pick up a little bit of the cad yellow and a little bit of our thinned white and bring them together. We're just going to make a little bit of a star shape in here. And then we're going to clean off the brush, and we're going to pick up some white, and even in the center of that, go right over top of that star shape. Then we're going to do the same thing with some of the other colors throughout the tree. Got little lights on this tree, maybe little bits of red. Red lights just randomly out throughout this branches of this tree. We might be able to blend a few of them. Just little touches of light out here. I guess the question is, do we want to see this as ornaments or as lights? I guess that kind of depends on the setting of the time that your painting is taking place in. These little bits of red, just little bits of decorative ornaments on their trees. Do we just leave the red and the green together, or do we add in some other colors? I think I might just leave the red and the green together, and just leave the light of the star at the top be the only thing that's really glowing. Except for the street lamps we didn't put in yet, and the make these a little bit more prominent, maybe. Get the idea that it's a decorated tree. Town Christmas tree. They still do that in some of the towns near me. Have a tree lighting festival. Alright, so now we got to put this gazebo around it. And for the most part, the gazebo is going to be white. So we just want this little off-white kind of appearance. Maybe even just a little bit of a blue in there. And so we got some pillars here, kind of holding up this gazebo. This has to be up pretty high, so we don't want to obscure that beautiful star that we put the effort into making. And so we got a little bit of a support rail back here. And there's probably some 6 rails. And it's going to be rounded. But where we're standing, these two kind of line up and you can't see the side rails. And just kind of imagine it all in your mind. How does this exist? I think we're going to take a little bit of black and a little bit of our blue. And it has a rounded roof. We're going to cut that off. That's going to make that sit back a little bit more. You gotta watch when you do these. I'm just kind of noticing things right now as I'm painting. You know, the shapes that you make some of these roof lines and the shapes that you make. You know, we've got an ulterior effect going on here that's not desired. Is that this is pointing up and this is pointing up and this is pointing up, and it just kind of all these little arrows in here that the roof lines make. You gotta watch to avoid some of those things. This isn't really the desire that we were looking for. Kind of make it more of an octagonal shape here, hexagonal. Fill it in a little bit more here. We're going to add snow to the gazebo roof. So I'm not extremely concerned with how filled it is. And I probably should have done this before I did the tree itself, kind of a gazebo floor. Right now I'm just kind of scratching in representation of if there's a floor there. This tree isn't just floating. I think we've probably got some perspective issues going on here that don't really work. But all in all, it's not. It's the idea that's important at the moment. We're trying to get that. The gazebo's going to have stairs that lead up to it. There's stairs going off the back side there, and stairs coming off of this side. Alright, so this was exciting. And this is some of the reasons why I tend to stick to landscapes a lot of the times, is that there's more variation in nature than what we see in the world we create. There's more expectations for exactness than what we create ourselves as humans. Everything's squared, and it's more because it makes better structurally sound buildings and everything. There's reasons for it, but it makes it harder to let them flow right off of your knife. Right out of your mind onto the canvas becomes a little more difficult, so. Alright, so. That arm is going to sleep holding this pallet board for now. Not at all what I would really like. So, let's get that snow on that roof. That'll help add a little more character to it. And we're going to wrap some garland around the poles of our gazebo. Kind of like the same thing with the mountains, just kind of drop some snow on here. And if we do it right, you'll get the impression that there's an octagonal shaped roof rather than just a square roof, if we're gonna quite get it right, but just kind of go back and forth, layering this up and down. It's not laying like it needs to. More snow on the edges. Might need to pick up a little bit more oil. Alright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a fan brush here and I'm going to smooth out what's going on underneath this tree. It's outside, it's under roof, but still get some things happening in here. And what this is doing is just kind of more solidifying from the scratches that I put in for the represent the floor and make a that's it. Get some of that red light reflecting off the floor. Not quite what I wanted to do here. what we're going to do is actually go back over top of this tree once I get this in here. Redefine the tree. It's fun to make mistakes sometimes too, you know. Just see how it emerges from your mind, see what you're doing. And just embrace the process, embrace what's going to happen and learn from it. Really just make this more distinct along here. Where the edge is. Same thing here. And sometimes drawing these lines with the knife helps really add some defining lines into your structure. It makes it more visually appealing. So back to our green for our tree. We're going to just redefine our tree a little bit here. I'm going to make sure the trunk's a little more defined as well. Just going to keep them a green trunk. Needs to be darker. So we picked up some black, a little more of the green, impression green, sap green, impression green. As we get towards the bottom of the tree here, we're gonna redefine the tree, re-add some bulbs because we covered them over again. Kids in the neighborhood decorated this tree, got a lot of bulbs down low, because that's how far they can reach. Kind of like our tree, we have a couple of toddlers and help decorate the tree. There's a lot of bulbs right along the bottom. Alright, so now we get to have a little more fun. Add some more defining characteristics to this scene. To help set what I'm doing right now is adding a little bit of snow touches in again. Not happy with the layering of the snow here, so I'm just trying to touch on a bit more. I think I had mentioned potentially having some bits of garland, so let's try that. We're going to have some garland that's going to wrap around the posts. And we're just going to dab it in there. And we're just picking up that sap green that we used for the tree. The idea is that it wraps around, comes around. You can't see it down the... And maybe we ran the garland around the edge. Maybe not. To decide if that's going to look right or not. Just down to the stairs. I'm going to have to add a lighter version of the garland on top here just to give it some more character. And we'll do the same thing on this other side here. And then maybe it's wrapped the other way. It's getting to be a little too light. Let's pick up some more black, bring that back down a little bit in value. So we want to put the dark values on first, and then with the highlights on top to get our desired effect. Little garland that comes around to the front of the steps here. Now I've lost a little bit of my green. Now I'm just looking like it's black. So we'll bring that on around to the side here. And some garland in the back. Pillars as well. Let's see here. Have this one go the opposite direction, just to add something more to look at. And then I said I wanted to do a little bit of highlights in there. And where it's at, I think maybe it would pick up a little bit of snow, especially towards the bottom. So we're going to pick up a little bit of white and get a little oil on the brush here. We'll pick up some oil paint, some of the white paint on here. Just makes a nice lighter value. And we're going to start at the bottom because it's going to get more snow. Kind of picked up on the bottom here. And you want to leave the dark values in there. You don't want to completely overcover them. It's a little bit difficult because we didn't make them real. This definitely is going to have more snow on it here. So it's going to be lighter down at the bottom. But because they're not very large to begin with, it's hard to not cover the dark values completely up unless you switch down to a smaller brush, which I did not do. And of course, we want to put some bulbs on the little bits of the garland that was put on the tree, or on the gazebo too. Yeah, it's decorated up gazebo. Alright. So now we're going to go back to that liner brush and we're going to clean it off with a bigger liner brush. We need a few trees kind of anchoring in this little town square. When they're nice, they're going to be deciduous trees, and when they're nice and go ahead and mix some of this with my palette knife. I'm going to need a decent amount. I'm going to take some Van Dyke brown, a little bit of black, maybe even add a touch of sap green to that, just so there's a hint of green in the tree itself, even though the trees aren't going to be green. It's just kind of a visual effect. And then we're going to dip that brush into some oil, get some nice oil on here, mix into this dark value. We're going to have a nice little tree. He just kind of hangs out over here. Gives the town nice little shade out in the out in the summertime here for their wonderful town gatherings. And just kind of little indications of lights. Not lights, little indications of limbs. Going along this tree. They get a little bit thicker as they come down, so. I don't just want one, we're going to have another one over in this way. And this one's going to live right over in here. And this one's not quite as big of a tree, but a little bit closer to the street. Had to be replanted when they had to fix the sidewalk. And then we're going to go back with our palette knife. We're going to add bits of snow sticking to the tree here. We're going to take our palette knife now, we're going to clean it off good. I'm going to pick up some white, a little bit of oil. And this oil's got a little bit of green in it, so it's going to darken the white a little bit, which is fine. So it's going to stand out quite starkly anyway. We're just going to add some bits of snow stuck to the tree. More snow sitting in this crook here, then maybe is up on the limbs. And we promised some other things, and we started talking about this painting, street lights, maybe a snowman. See what we're doing on time here. We're going to have some snow caught in the bits of the bark here. We got some snow building up here. Kind of caught up in the bark. If you notice, I'm moving a little bit of a rounding stroke motion. Helps kind of with leaving contour lines, kind of gives a little more form to those trunks. Do the same thing to this tree. Little bits of snow hanging on the different limbs. You don't have to get every limb. Sometimes the snow's falling off of some of them. Yeah. A little bit of a gust of wind. You can do the same kind of circular motion on the bigger limbs as well. Helps give that form and depth as you have lighter and darker regions. Got some snow hanging out on this one here. And these ones I'm going to pull the other direction. Need to get that off the edge of it. Get my snow back on my edge of my knife here. You get the idea basically of how you can add more of a solid tree into your scene. You still got to take a nice fan brush. I think we'll use a dry one, and kind of a bigger fan brush, and we're just going to pull some of this down and just kind of blend it out. And this is going to become a little bit of the shadows around the tree, a little bit of how the land itself is kind of usually a little bit higher around the tree trunks as it holds dirt. Picking up more, the same thing back in here. Got a little bit of a hill going on. A little bit of light hitting different spots back in here, giving some indications. Grabbed up too much paint now. Got a couple of bristles. Reach out and grab some paint off of the gazebo. Grab some off the tree. Nice. We're trying to make some indication of some flow of land back in here. If you're good at it, you're not going to pick up the paint that I just did and kind of mess it up a little bit. But just going to lightly blend this out here. Got to go across their pathway here to the gazebo. I'm just going to let that same thing on this side. It's going to kind of mound up a little bit here. Come back this way. I'm going to take a bigger brush here. I'm going to blend that out. So I'm going to take a big dry brush. I'm going to blend this out here. All the shadows from the gazebo. Picked up some. What's interesting is the thing that gives snow kind of its appearance is the different shadows you see playing on it. adding in some of this shadow play, start to feel like there's something there rather than nothing. Again, you want those shadows to follow some kind of a contour of the land, but so you want your strokes to go consistently with the lay of the land as you imagine it, and don't try to pick up additional paint like I just did and have to blend more out. Sometimes when I'm doing these scenes, I'm not doing it in the proper order because I've never done it before, and I get these ideas of, well, I want to make sure this makes it in the painting, I want to make sure that makes it in the painting, and so I haven't completely thought it through, and so you end up with some weird effects because I pick up paint where there shouldn't have been paint to begin with. The couple of things we're going to add in here just for the sake of having them. We're going to add a little bit of some street lights along here. We didn't actually define maybe I'll do that, attempt to anyway. We're going to define a bit of a sidewalk here. Goes out and along in front of these buildings. It's kind of hard to define, to have street lights if you don't actually have a street, right? So we're going to try to define where that street actually is here, at least with a sidewalk. I don't know if it's showing up real great, but a bit of a sidewalk. And again, this is like saying things about the order. Since it's behind the tree and the gazebo, it should have been put in earlier. But I wanted to get to the gazebo and these trees up front, and I didn't do it back then because I didn't plan it out well. Again, sometimes you just stand to the canvas and paint what's in your mind and make mental notes of the steps where you went awry, so that the next time you try to paint a scene like this, you don't make the same issues. We'll do the same thing on this side. So a little bit of a sidewalk that comes down. I believe it probably doesn't look much like a sidewalk. Then you have to think to yourself, okay, well, what makes a sidewalk look like a sidewalk? With a dry brush, I'm actually going to go over this, blend it out a little bit, smooth out some of the streaks. This one probably is not going to go on anybody's wall. knowing that it has the issues that it has will keep me from probably wanting to see the light of day, but what we're going to do here is try to plan. It's not going to work. Alright, I think we're going to skip that step. That was going to be an attempt to put some street lights along this sidewalk, but there we picked up some yellow. That's nice. There's some glow out here. Alright, at some point you just kind of have to stop, because you're only making things worse. And you just try to recover what you can recover. Now I gotta go back and fix this light, this bit of the roof here. Some more cindo. Yeah. Alright, so what else do we got going on here? I think I wanted to add a snowman, because why not? And maybe a few stars poking out up in the sky. Let's put a few stars up in that sky. And we're just going to pick up some white. We're just going to dab some stars out here. And it's just starting to get dark enough to see some of the stars up in the sky. You don't want to put a lot up there. It'll draw too much attention away. I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bit of a round shape. Touch more. And what I'm using is just the edge of the fan brush. I think I might just change to a filbert. For what I'm trying to do here, I think a filbert would work a little better. And what we're making is our little snowman that we promised. I'm going to pick up some white and a little bit of oil because I want to lighten parts of the snowman where the light would be getting most visible. Very softly, we're going to kind of blend it out. And the more blending, the better. The softer the blending, the better this is going to appear. More white up here in this. Too dark. Alright, now we need to give him some life. So do that. Take a smaller liner brush. Where did I go with that little liner brush? And I think touch of black. Got a couple eyes. Boom. These little details, you can't really even see it out there. Put some buttons. And get a little more oil on there. We need some limbs. We're going to put a little more brown there, I think. I'm going to marry him in with the snow here, so we're going to... He's got his own little shadow here. He's casting. I think he needs a nose. Give him a cool nose. And I would like him to be wearing... I'm just going to grab another brush for this. I'll bring down a little bit of this phthalo turquoise. He's just going to have a little bit of a touch of color. Well, I hope you like painting along. I think we're going to call this one done. So I do see a spot I want to touch up here. Kind of look the painting over often. There's some where this trunk meets the snow here is just a little too rough. Softly add a little blending here. I hope you enjoyed painting along today. I hope you have a nice little village scene, Christmas time. Gets that nice cozy feel for the coming holiday. And with that, thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to follow along for more, do subscribe. I will be streaming again this Friday. It'll be the last live stream for a while. I'm going to switch to a pre-recorded and edited format, released once a week, so that it's more consumable, so it doesn't waste as much of your time. And I'll still make the full-length videos available at some point. I don't know when that's going to be and how I'm going to arrange that yet, but in the meantime, take care, and remember, don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep painting. Bye-bye.